Okay. Hi, everybody. This is your librarian, Mr. Tran, and this is the one, the only FAQtual Warrior Smartcast. I'm joined here by the man, the myth, the legend, Shannon Miles.
Hello, everyone.
How's it going?
I'm all right today.
Okay. All right. So, nice to know that we actually have our recording equipment working properly this time.
Yes.
No technical mishaps. So someone might actually hear this conversation. All right. So, what were we talking about last time? I can't quite remember.
If I remember right, we were talking about urban legends, myths, and other folklore.
Okay, folklore. So let's get to that. So what folklore includes what? Mythologies, folk tales, things like that.
Yes.
Right. So a little bit of your Greek mythology, a little bit of your, let's say, Paul Bunyan type stuff, Johnny Appleseed, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, but I mean, specifically, when someone says a folk tale, what are they really talking about?
I guess when they're talking about folk tales are stories that have been told over the years or over the centuries. They have changed, over the years. Some may have added, subtracted from the stories, but there's stories that are handed down that are, let's say, maybe factual, may not be factual.
Okay.
Who knows?
It's just it's more valuable as kind of a cultural artifact.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, like we were saying, that includes your Paul Bunyans, Hercules. A lot of these are very heroic stories, usually.
Yes.
Okay.
Usually they are people who have overcome dilemmas and triumphed in the end.
Yeah.
And they have lessons in them or lessons learned.
Okay. And let's say, the sort of stories you see in even various religious texts like, the Bible or the Quran or others, could those technically be counted as a classification of folklore too?
I do believe they can be, yes.
Okay. All right.
Because there's always a lesson, or their parables, or their some type of outcome, positive outcome in the end.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to look at those kinds of things, especially even the sort of stories you see in those sort of religious texts, and we look at them, and I mean, to us, it's these tales that we hear about in a religion. I'm not especially religious, but I can understand what that's like. But it's a mythology. And the funny thing is, in reverse, we look at, let's say, Greek mythology.
Yes.
We hear about Hercules, we hear about Zeus and Hera and Perseus and all that. And to us, it's a mythology, but to them, that was their religion.
Yes, that was a lifestyle.
That was a lifestyle. That was their way of life, how they understood the world, right? Okay. And, I mean, do you remember... I remember when I was a kid, and they were playing the Disney's Hercules movie in the theaters. Do you remember that movie?
Yes, I do.
I still remember the song and everything, and it was a great movie. I mean, I enjoyed James Caan in the role and everything. No, sorry, James Woods. But it's very different from the actual myths, isn't it? I mean, for those of you who don't know, the Hercules myths are generally about Hercules wanders around, he meets somebody, he kills them, and then he keeps going on.
Basically.
Yeah, and it's... I mean, I remember talking about this in our previous conversation, and it was... A lot of these characters are, when you really think about it, they're basically serial killers. They are amoral killing machines.
They're not exactly the good guy in the modern sense. They, what you just said, they're basically warlike killing machines. They seek out to destroy.
Yeah, and it's really interesting when we look at how in the past there's a different morality to it. There's a different way of looking at the world. I mean, this is a guy who goes around, clubs people to death, chops off heads. Occasionally is guilty of some other indiscretions we're not allowed to say in front of kids, but but he's called a hero, and that's one of those things where it's like, then we look at what is a hero in the modern sense. We think about police officers, firefighters, teachers, your Supermans, your Batmans, they save the day and everything, but it's like in those days a hero was just somebody who was exceptional.
I would like to know what the definition of hero actually meant then, up to what we have the definition of hero now.
Yeah.
Hero. How would we define the word hero in the sense of the original?
Well, as far as I've ever read in my anthropology classes, which I only barely remember, I do apologize. A hero was a facet of the sort of religious cults that worship the Greek gods. They were literally the children of the gods. They were demigods. Heroes are not supposed to be human, which is kind of funny when you think about now. We expect to humanize all of our heroes.
Exactly.
And it's just really interesting in that sense. They were openly worshipped. I mean, in many ways, they were venerated kind of in the way we would venerate a saint now. Or at least your grandparents would. I mean, who knows about now? But there's that, and it's weird. Then we have heroes now, and they generally do what we would consider, especially by heavily Judeo-Christian influenced ethics, to be very moral people. They help people.
They save the day.
A lot of our heroes are expected to not kill people, whereas in those days, it's almost like a high score list. If you can kill 100 men with your bare hands, it's like, hey, good job. There's your achievement.
Right. And you move on without thinking.
Yeah. It's like, in some of these stories, you have heroes who are collecting heads. It's like, oh yeah, look at this guy. I took his head on this battlefield. He challenged me, and he did this, this, and this. Here's his skull. It's like, yeah. Now try getting that past the censors, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. But now let's move on. We touched a little bit on the Disney stores.
Yes.
And we know that a lot of them are really heavily influenced by Grimm's fairy tales.
Yes.
A lot of Germanic, legend, right? So, have you ever gotten a chance to look at some of these original fairy tales and kind of compare them against the Disney version?
I have looked at some of the original versions of these Grimm fairy tales or Grimm tales.
Yeah.
And compare them with Disney. The end, I guess some of it, you say that the endings do not, they all differ.
Yeah.
Most of the Grimm fairy tales or tales do not end in happiness.
No, hence the name Grimm, I guess.
Grimm,
right?
hence the name Grimm. It's very dark.
Yeah.
Versus Disney stories, tales, somewhat, I think for the most part, end in happiness, or in how you say, what do you call happily ever after?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah, if we were going by, let's say, a Greek tradition, it would be essentially a comedy, because a lot of them end in marriages too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like, Little Red Riding Hood is one of the ones that always stuck out to me. We see this story of a little girl. She's adorable. She goes out to grandma's house and she gets attacked by some man-eating wolf and all that. And to us, it's like, oh, okay, it's just this story. Don't talk to strangers or something, you know. But to them, it's the original. It's about prostitution. It is literally a parable about prostitution because apparently, women who wore scarlet hoods back then were prostitutes.
Couldn't wear the color red?
No. Forget about the crimson letter.
I know.
The scarlet letter, excuse me. No, this is the scarlet hood. Yeah. I bet you never thought you'd hear about prostitution in an educational podcast, right?
Far-fetched.
Yes. Or, well, I mean, what are some other examples? I think Little Mermaid is one I remember. That one's actually really sad at the end. That
is really sad in the end.
Yeah.
If you really think about it, it's like Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she just dies at the end, doesn't she?
Doesn't she become human?
You know, I can't remember. I mean, I've heard some versions where she's human and she gains human legs, but the thing is, she lives with the pain of, like, feeling like, knives are stabbing into her legs for the rest of her life.
For the rest of her life, yes.
And I've heard other ones where she dies and, because she's not human, she's a soulless being, and, it's just oblivion for her.
Right.
I mean, these are some pretty depressing stories.
Very depressing stories.
Yeah.
Some of the Disney cartoons, animations, were made into films.
Yes.
With different endings. Maleficent.
Yes.
Snow White and the Seven Huntsmen, or was it the
Dwarves?
Dwarves.
I thought it was
but they were also huntsmen.
Yes.
There's a movie that did not end well in that one.
Yeah.
Hansel and Gretel did not end well.
Hansel and Gretel, there's a story where, it's like, oh, cute, precocious kids who get attacked by a witch. Dude, you look at it from the witch perspective, it's like you just had a bunch of, preteen kids murder and burn a woman alive in her own house?
Not your everyday story.
No,
it's pretty dark.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're into that kind of thing, right?
I think lots of people are nowadays. Oh, man.
Not exactly the same thing you want to read to your 5-year-old anymore.
So, all right. So we are rapidly running out of time. I'd like to actually get to some of the student questions. You want to do that?
Yes, we can do that.
So let's start off with a simple one, then we'll invite in our guest, assuming he hasn't run off yet. Okay, so first question through the website. They asked, are there any Harry Potter books in the library? I can answer this. So right now, the YB library has been demolished. We're working on rebuilding it. So it's not so much that we don't have Harry Potter books in the library, so much as, we don't technically have a library right now to have Harry Potter books in. So, work in progress. We're working on that. Eventually, of course, we'll probably have a full set, or 2 or 3. But, sorry, we don't have those books right now. All right, so let's invite our guest and see if we can actually get this finished up. Ryan, you still here?
I'm here.
All right, come on down. Grab a chair. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest today. One of our students. What's your name? Introduce yourself to everyone.
My name's Ryan. I'm a 12th grader at Urbana High School.
Okay, all right. So you were one of the only people to actually leave a question for the feedback page, and actually you were the only one who left a really interesting question I wanted to answer. So could you ask the question and give us a little more context on what you want to know?
Does King Arthur pull Excalibur from his stone or from the Lady of the Lake?
Okay, so King Arthur, so Arthurian legend. Excalibur, if you don't know, is the legendary sword of Arthur. Okay, so do you have an interest in Arthur legends, or?
Yes, I remember getting the Wanted Future King, which is all 4 of King Arthur's books written by T.H. White here at Urbana. And I was always interested because people argued Excalibur was not the sword that he pulled, but that book does not have any kind of closure on it.
Yeah. All right. So that it's great that you asked that question. It's actually a really complex question. Shannon, did you ever read any of the Arthur myths?
Yes, I did. I've read this story and I've heard different versions of it.
Yeah.
It is also said that King Arthur was not supposed to pull the sword. Actually, his brother was supposed to pull it.
Yeah.
But his brother sent him.
Yeah.
And he didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
He saw what was there. He decided to pull it, and he pulled it. To his surprise, it came out the stone.
Yeah.
And when asked about it, he really didn't have... He had somewhat of an explanation, but it was supposed to be for someone else.
Yeah, like he was just supposed to fetch a sword, but he couldn't find
a sword. Couldn't find the sword.
Yeah. Because I think it was his adopted brother needed it for some contest or something, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, as far as I know, and the thing is that the Arthur legends themselves have a lot of different versions throughout the centuries. I mean, the legends date back probably over 1,500 years. But to answer your question, it depends on which version of Arthur you're talking about. So if you're talking about the version where Arthur pulls the sword from the stone, and that sword is Excalibur, that is generally from what they sometimes call the Vulgate tradition of Arthurian legend. So it's the tradition that was written by the French, actually. So in that one, yes, Excalibur is the sword in the stone. And when we look at the version where he becomes king by pulling a sword from the stone, but he gets Excalibur, the actual symbol of his reign and everything, from the Lady of the Lake. That's the post-Vulgate tradition, which is more British, more from the United Kingdom and the British Isles. So yeah, it really does depend. I mean, in some versions, you never know where Arthur actually gets the sword. He just shows up with it.
From the one story that I read, it was in the middle of a village.
Yeah.
It was a village that he lived in. And that's where he pulled the sword. I don't remember the name of the village.
Yeah.
But that's where he pulled the sword.
Yeah. And, I mean, in some versions, Excalibur isn't even called Excalibur. Sometimes it's called Caliburn or Calabol, something like that. But, yeah, hopefully, does that answer your question?
Yes, it really helps. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, that was Ryan, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so I think we're running out of time, so let's sign off on this podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, please feel free to visit our website or leave an email. Ask us any questions. We'll answer it to the best of our ability. Until next time, information is ammunition. This is Mr. Tran.
And this is Mr. Miles.
Signing off.